Hi, I'm Non from My Authentic Style, and this channel is dedicated to helping you find your authentic style. This video is a continuation of the Kibbe Soft Gamine breakdown, and in that previous video, I discussed the body type and the style profile. So if you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend you watch both so that this profile for the soft gamine is complete. And now let's discuss Kibbe Soft Gamine clothes. So before we begin, Kibbe has repeatedly said that clothing doesn't belong to a specific type, and rather that it's how you put a piece into an entire outfit that makes it either appropriate or inappropriate for that type. So keep that in mind as we go through this sample wardrobe, that ultimately it's about the entire outfit and not just a singular piece of clothing. But I will discuss key aspects that make each of these pieces fit the soft gamine body type. Starting off with lingerie, here we have three pieces, and I think these work well for the soft gamine because they have a little bit of that gamine essence. The first look in particular, that very vibrant tiger red on black pattern, is very dynamic and very lively, and this is a key aspect of the gamine style profile. So I love that. The middle one has that beautiful trim. Trim is also a detail that is so important for this type. So that white trim that contrasts against the red, very perfect for a soft gamine. And then there's a softness also of this. So it's red, it's lace, very yin aspects. So leaning towards that softness and that lushness. And likewise, the last piece, that burgundy two-piece, very soft and feminine with a little bit of lace trimming, but not overtly so. There's a spectrum here as well for women who lean more towards the yin. That piece to the right can be more perfect for them. And then for women who lean a little bit more towards the yang, I love that middle piece because it's got those boy shorts. The underpant is more to that vein, and that creates a great option. But overall, I think these would all be great lingerie pieces for a soft gamine. For swimsuits, again, I love these because of the trim and the color contrast. So starting with that two-piece, that black on white is just so dynamic. The white buttons as well add a bit of fun to it, and it's polished, sophisticated, but still fun and dynamic. So very much soft gamine. And then the middle one is for the women who lean more towards that hourglass shape, and it really offers a great option that is very feminine, very mature, but at the same time still honors the fun dynamic aspect of this type. So that trim, again, the black on white in the belt and in the straps, I think is just so beautiful. The only other thing that would have made these pieces better is to have them in more fun dynamic colors, but the style of these is fantastic. And then to the right, we have that staccato effect, that multiple colorway that's very interesting and just beautiful. For shorts, we have these four options that are a play on softness and angularity, because after all, that is what the gamine type is. But these have a little bit more softness to them. So that pink pant to the bottom, you can see with a slight delicacy of the frills at the bottom, but still the structure up top. That's great. And to the left of that, those white shorts are very interesting. They have something visually fun to look at, but they still honor the smallness, and they have a sharpness and an angularity, but also that bellowed shape that leans more soft. I just think those are incredibly fun and would be too much for most other types, but on a gamine, they could be the base of a very stunning outfit. And then to the top, the green pant leans all the way more soft, but I do like how they come together to create a sharpness in the shape of it. So that V aspect is balancing out the softness of the fabric and the little bit of that bellowing shape. And then to the right, we have the more angular and structured pant, but they're in this vibrant pink color that I think is so important for this type. They have a little bit of length because they are high-waisted, so they offer a slightly different option. But again, I think they could be the basis for a great outfit for a soft gamine. In casual tops, the focus is on dynamic patterns and colors, but also a smallness and a sort of crisp nature to the details. So at the bottom, I love that collar, and it's very small and sharp, but it also has that detail to it. So visually very interesting. And likewise, at the edge of the armhole is those two horizontal lines that create again that staccato effect. So this is a very basic piece, but it is brought into the world of the gamine and makes it harmonize with it through these details. On top of that is just a very fun top that has a lot of colors to it and also very interesting trim that makes it lean more gamine. To the right is a top that is more sophisticated and clean in terms of the styling, but it has also that color contrast of the black trim that makes it visually interesting while still being or feeling very elevated. And that blue vest is perfectly sized for the gamine, so it has that cropped nature to it, and the color and the pattern add that sense of vibrancy and very interesting. It adds visual interest. Formal tops. Blouses should be soft and draped, but ultra fitted at the neck and cuff with bodice detail. You may go for very crisp touches of ruffles or lace, which will be very chic, or you may opt for a streamlined look with animated outlining. Silky blouses are best, although sheer cottons may also be used. Avoid severely tailored blouses and unconstructed blouses. So here we have what I think are great options for the soft gamine. There is a focus on, again, trim, so that navy and white top at the bottom with the short sleeves. Very simple, very elegant, but that contrasting trim adds a touch of visual interest, and the shortness of the sleeve also plays into the smallness of this type. I love the high neckline. Just a great everyday piece that is simple yet elevated. Likewise, the black and white shirt with the high neckline and the white trim, I think, is a great option for formal spaces like work where you want to be polished but not boring. And then, of course, this type always has the option of going a little bit more flamboyant and interesting in terms of their style. So that shirt to the right has very soft details that lean to their additional yang. I love the ruffled neckline and that necktie visual interest, and there's that ruffling again towards the top that just adds a touch of soft sophistication, but without it being too much. I also love that the cuff is very simple and a little bit stiff, which kind of ties it all together so it doesn't feel overly delicate. And then to the left is a very crisp shirt, very interesting visual elements. Those cutouts that create a stiff like ruffling, very interesting. And I think that would look incredible on a soft gamine type because it's that mix of something yang in the structure of the shirt, the very stiff collar and the cuffs, and you can see it's very streamlined in how it's cut and sewn together, but then you have that soft element in the arms, so just a wonderful addition that is very interesting to look at. That's a shirt I think that could lean and work potentially for both flamboyant gamines and soft gamines, depending on the rest of the look. And then the look to the top is very soft, so it is a little bit clingy, and it is very simple and is a great way to add juxtaposition if you're wearing, for example, a cropped trouser. So it adds that form-fitting, high neckline aspect, and this could be done in any color, and it's very soft and delicate, so it juxtaposes against a very sharp trouser kind of pant, and creates that beautiful, delicate balance. Sweaters should be very fitted at the waist and cuff areas with small and crisp collar additions. Ribbed trim and intricate detail are very sophisticated, as are extremely animated patterns when kept small and swirling or crisp and curvy. Sweaters are best when they are fluffy or have a deep pile. Skinny knits must be very shaped and ultra fitted at the neck, waist, cuff, and shoulder areas. Avoid long, oversized sweaters, rough, bulky knits, standard symmetrical styles, and clingy knits. So here, I love these options because of the fun colorways. So the very dynamic colors and interesting trim that we see in that orange vest, for example. But also the fabric of these sweaters is very soft, so not rough against the delicate bone structure of this type, yet still very visually interesting. I love the colorway of that first yellow and blue sweater as well. And the high neckline of a turtleneck is great for this type because high necklines suit them so well. It's a great place also to add a dynamic color contrast. So if that's available, that's always great. And that this pattern is horizontally striped is great because it's that staccato feeling. So just a wonderful piece for a soft gamine. All the way to the right is a much softer kind of fabric, but again, high neckline, and the colorway is very subdued, but it has that sort of mesh that creates a dynamic play with the skin tone underneath. So just a very soft visual element, but it's still there. And this for them would look better than just a solid turtleneck or high neckline top. And then to the left, again, I love the interesting pattern. Very colorful and distinct. So nothing is swooshing into each other. There's clear sort of lines, and that's good for them. There's a crispness to it. And there's also that trim, that white trim that ties everything together. And at the neck, it contrasts against that purple. So just beautiful. Also, the neckline is quite high, and there's a crispness to that collar. And I think that would look wonderful on a gamine type with the ability to handle this sort of very dynamic color. Pants. Pants should be shapely, showcasing the ankle. Cropped styles are excellent, as are skin tight styles for fun. Avoid man-tailored styles, wide unconstructed styles, traditional symmetrically tailored slacks. So here I love the idea of a high waistline because it adds to that shaping of that womanly figure that this type is typically associated with, even though it is a small womanly figure. So that first pant, that very cropped pant with the high waistline, but it falls just below the knee, is perfect for this type. And capri pants in general are great for the gamine because of their small stature. I like the pants to the right of them because of the dynamic pattern, so just very interesting. And the pants to the right of that as well, also man styled, but the high waistline softens that, so it becomes potentially very shapely. And depending on how the rest of the outfit looks, could be great for this type. And then, of course, pants that are skin tight are great for this type, like those leggings to the right. For denim, a focus on a high waist again to give that womanly shape. So, as we see in that first look, as well as the second last one from the right, and they also have a cropped length, which again, perfect for this type. So, it gives beautiful shape. And then a general straight cut pant that can either be high waist as the one all the way to the right, or in the middle that's lower waist but also still cropped, great for a soft gamine. And then the second pant from the right with that loewe print there, just fun and dynamic, something that makes it interesting for the gamine essence. Jackets and suits. Jackets should be short and shapely with lots of detail and trim. They should always show the waist. They may be cropped above it or flare out into a crisp peplum. Keep them very fitted. Contrasting trim, tapered cuffs, and shoulder detail are all excellent. Avoid long jackets that hide the waist, severely straight and tailored jackets, unconstructed jackets, boxy jackets, symmetrically tailored jackets, and standard blazers. So in these options, what I see to the left and the right are very fitted, and especially the one to the right. I love that one because it ticks all of the boxes. So the sharp contrast of the white trim against the black and the detailing again of that same trim at the crisp neckline in the collar, as well as at the pockets, just adds visually dynamic and beautiful detail. I love the buttons too. I love that they're rounded. Round shapes, very yin. It just is a touch of that to give it that additional fun piece. This could be a great place to add a fun color down in the buttons where it adds a touch of color, a pop of color without upsetting the overall balance of the piece and still honors all the key components of this type. But even as is, I think that's a great jacket for a soft gamine. And then the one all the way to the left, I love it because of the cropped length, which is good for this type. And then the trim at the armholes, right at the cuffs, as well as the edging of the jacket itself and at the collar. All of this is great. Not too much, but enough to be visually interesting and great for this type. And then in the middle, we have that black piece, which I like because of the crisp neckline and just generally the crispness of this fabric. But then it is balanced by those very rounded bellowed sleeves. So very interesting visually, very cool. I can see this as part of a very cool look. There could be contrast in the buttons potentially, or a little bit more contrasting detail trim at the cuffs, sure. But as is, I still think this is just such a great jacket for this type. And then to the right of that, you have that amazing grayish, brownish jacket with the peplum and that wonderful brown leather neckline, the collar that contrasts so great against it. So it's still very chic and sophisticated, but honors that crispness and that detailing that is so important for this type. And the peplum accentuates the curved shape of the body type. And it's also a jacket that isn't too long. So it honors the vertical line of this type. Just a perfect option for the soft gamine. And then for coats, when you do need a little bit more length, I love these options. The first one I love because of the color, the fun color. It's a great neutral jacket for this type because their style requires so much visual interest and dynamic elements that this would be considered neutral. So the great color contrast, I love it at the collar and the cuffs. Wonderful, fun, and just beautiful. If this falls within your color palette, it's such a great jacket. Also because of the length, so it's not overly long. It falls right to the knee, so perfect for a shorter body type. To the right of that, for people who are both gamines but also have a gamine essence, this is a perfect coat because it is so incredibly dynamic and vibrant and the sort of thing that most body types just couldn't pull off. But this would be right at home on a gamine essence, soft gamine type. Love that color contrast of the pink on the yellow and that play on polka dot sizing. So the smallest standardized size on the yellow part of the coat, as well as the bigger size on the collar and the trim at the cuff, as well as the belt. Just very interesting, very fun, very gamine. And then to the right is a mix of almost classic and gamine. So in the short length is honoring the gamine vertical and the very dynamic color contrast of the black on white, crisp lines at the collar and that detailing the black polka dots against that white. Very fun, but also still very chic and sophisticated. So I love this coat as well. Skirts. The skirts should be
short, trim, and shapely. They should have a defined waistband, usually with small crisp gathers. Your version of a straight skirt should be tulip shaped and tapered at the knee. This hemline is even and ends mid knee or very slightly below, but never longer. Long skirts are tapered at the knee or just below, and then flare out gently into a modified trumpet shape. If this is a very slight flare, a slight slit is possible. This hemline is uneven and will end mid calf. Asymmetrical hemlines are excellent on you. An evening gown length will be short, showing the ankle. Bouffant skirts are also very exciting on you. Low or dropped flounce are elegant touches on skirts. Avoid long straight skirts. Avoid traditional symmetrical styles like A-lines, wide unconstructed styles, and avoid voluminously full circle skirts as well as sharp pleated skirts. So I do want to start with that voluminously full circle skirt to the top right. And it is, I agree, to be avoided by this type because there is great risk of the skirt swallowing up the wearer because this is a short type and then that's a lot of fabric. But I do think that there is a version of this that works. We've seen in a little bit of the looks that we've discussed, Audrey Tautou wore a lot of these kinds of skirt, but not as full as this. So she was very much aware of not overwhelming herself with fabric. And I think that's the key for this. But in the skirts that she was wearing that were very similar to this, it would have been such a beautiful addition to have this fun polka dot pattern. And I think that's also a key aspect of it that makes it something that I think could work for this type. It has to be balanced well with the rest of the outfit. It's definitely something that would be great for a gamine type with either a classic essence or a full-on gamine essence or a blend of the two, because this could work either way. Polka dot is a very traditional kind of fun but still very classic sort of pattern. It could really be part of such a fun outfit for them. But yes, be mindful that typically this is to be avoided because it can very quickly swallow up the wearer. The skirt to the bottom of that, I like it has that tulip sort of shape and it's short, so it's very perfect for a smaller gamine type and gives them great shaping. It sits at the waist and the length honors them, so a great skirt, a great option. The orange skirt I like because of that trim, the white trim. It's a bit more fun and dynamic and still short length, very close to the body, and a great fun addition for the soft gamine wardrobe. And then to the bottom of that is a longer skirt for this type. So if you're interested in more length, this is a great option. It has that trumpet flare, but the length is still just past the knee so that it honors the vertical line and doesn't overwhelm the type. This is also a great formal style option. Dresses. Dresses should be very shaped at the waist with crisp necklines and intricate or animated detail. Flounces added to skirts are very sophisticated if used sparingly. Sharp shoulder definition is important, and gathers, shirring, etc. are excellent. Skirts may be tapered or flared, but should not be voluminous. Bouffant dresses are extremely chic and sexy on you. Asymmetrical hemlines and T-length gowns are also extremely striking on you, as are all blouse-in styles with extra tapering. Avoid severe tailored dresses, wide unconstructed dresses, symmetrical dresses, no waist styles, and overly clingy styles. Here we have some dresses that I think are very interesting and would be great for the soft gamine type. Starting with the three dresses at the top left. I love this purple and red dress because of that staccato effect. Those horizontal lines that create that very fun, very bright, vivid pattern are excellent for this type. High neckline, clingy fabric, soft sort of knitty type fabric, close to the body so it can follow the great shape of this type. Excellent choice. To the right of that, the red dress, again, the fabric is great and it's clingy, so great shape. The length of the sleeves is short, which anything small is always going to be great for this type as a detail. High neckline, always excellent for this type. and it has that bouffant sort of skirt, which is adds a softness and a roundedness to it, which again, excellent for this type. To the right of that, a slightly more formal type for perhaps somebody within this type who is not as soft, but still very much soft gamine. So there's a structure there to that dress, which is fantastic, and a structure again to that shirt in the cuffs as well as the collar. But then there's all these soft elements, the softness in the shirt. The sheer nature of that shirt also adds additional softness, and that tie at the neck, that sort of ribbon, again, just a fun, soft, delicate feature that altogether creates a very blended, soft and sharp look that is ultimately more soft. So it's the perfect representation of the soft gamine, and the contrast of black and white always great for this type. This would have also looked great if the actual dress aspect had another fun color, but neither here nor there. And I also love the shoes because in that strappy stacked detail, it creates again that staccato effect. To the right is that high neckline dress, asymmetrical shaping, very highly contrasted white detail that adds trim. All of these things creating a very fun dynamic dress that would look great on a soft gamine, very fitted, great shape. And then that black dress, again, I love the shape of it. I love the length of it. I love the raised neckline, that mock high neckline, but also that trim visible at the arm openings and at the end of the dress. So very intricate, fun, loopy, circular kind of trim that just adds a fun aspect that I think is great for this type. Very visually interesting on an otherwise boring dress. And that green dress at the bottom has some great elements. It's very 60s. So it just has a hyper feminine feel to me because of what I envision when I see that style of dress. I envision the big hair and feminine hair. So all of these rounded shapes that would then work to soften the stiffness of the dress because the fabric is rather stiff, but it has that open neckline, a great bright color with a dynamic pattern, a very standardized pattern, but the color is bright and vivid, and the trim against that green, that white trim at the bottom, as well as right under the breast area and also trimming the neckline is wonderful. Again, that staccato effect, and the length is perfect for this type. Evening wear. Fitted shapes with crisply ornate trim, smooth fabric with glitzy trim, beading, sparkles, bows, netting, and playfully sexy accessories, bouffant ball gowns, poofy cocktail dresses with crisp flounces, evening knit dresses, bustier dresses, fitted dinner suits with flounces, draped evening pants with glitzy tops or fitted jackets. So here I think these women are showcasing a lot of these aspects in these outfits that they've worn to very glitzy evening type events. And just moving from left to right, in Tandiva Newton's case, I love the sharpness of that jacket and how it's juxtaposed to the softness of her, I believe, skirt, which is very soft. It has that delicate trim of the lace and that sort of rounded shaping to it, but very anchored in the solidity and angularity of that blazer. So it's not too much and it's just really a perfect blend, and she looks incredible. And also the color trim, so the white against the blue gives that very dynamic color play that makes the look overall visually interesting. And again, that strappy heel, always great for that type because it gives that staccato effect with minimum effort. And then here we have Betty White, who looks incredible, but it's that dinner jacket and the shirt underneath and that very fun dynamic pattern, black on white. And then everything is anchored together by the black of her pant and her shoes. So there's that very put together sort of ensemble, but with a dynamic feel to it. Love also the high neckline created by her necklace. Just overall, she looks amazing. And that fun pop of color in her lip too. Halle Berry looks great here. Simple dress that clings beautifully to her body, so there is great shaping. But it's really the glitzy nature of the dress that gives it that feminine touch and elevates it for nighttime. And of course, the pattern. So that pattern is staccato all the way, fun, dynamic, but very crisp. Everything is very much clearly defined. Nothing is blending into each other. And it's just a great way to add color. I love that red, that little bit of red, and the silver. She looks amazing. I just love how that looks on her. And then the dress also has that neck piece, so it ties at her neck, and that creates that elevated neckline. So high neckline being great for this type. Beautiful way to play into these elements and still make it look so effortless. And to the right of that, this is a much older picture, but it features that very soft drapey fabric that works great for her because she has a lot more of yang to her. The color itself is quite static, but there's a mix of fabrics that makes it a little bit more dynamic. And then that sash that she has at her neck is wonderful because it gives the illusion of a raised neckline or a high neckline, which is great for this type. And of course, she's Halle Berry, so she looks amazing. And finally, let's discuss Kibbe Soft Gamine accessories. Your accessories should be small and crisp with a bit of intricate trim for animation. Colorful accessories are always a good choice. Bags. Bags should be small, rounded shapes, delicate shoulder straps, touches of intricate trim, metallic, antique, or beaded bags for evening, ultra slim briefcases in soft leather. So here I see color contrast, I see sharp lines in the slim briefcase, depending on the person's makeup. For example, I think Audrey Tautou would be really suited by a small, sharp briefcase. And there's smooth, rounded lines, fun shapes, and small shapes as well. These options that I think are all very great for this type. And for evening wear, that first bag with all of that sparkle detail is great because it adds glamour and femininity, but the size keeps it so that that's not too overwhelming and the shape is still defined. Avoid oversized, unconstructed bags, sharp geometric shapes, symmetrical shapes with frames, bulky briefcases. Shoes. Lightweight and delicate with tapered toe and heels, touches of intricate trim. Bare and strappy are good, and slingbacks. Flats should be very feminine. Light and bright shades are excellent choices. Here we have a lot of simple feminine pieces, especially for the flats. So on top, I like those slip-on sandals, and the jewel detail takes an otherwise very boring piece and makes it more feminine, which becomes important for this type, but without being too much, because it's not like a whole shoe having that. There's a very small area to work with, so it's not overwhelming. I also like the simple but elevated sandal, the gold sandal. That's another way to make something more feminine, and the gold color gives it a shimmer. I like the trim of that pair bottom right, so the white shoe with the green. Very great way of adding color and visual interest. That is fantastic for this type. And also the fun dynamic pattern of that polka dot with the yellow underback. Very incredible. The heel is small, which feels right for this type. Again, just some great options for the soft gamine. Jewelry is one of your most important accessories, for it adds a sophistication and touch of wit to your look. Shapes should be rounded and crisp, whether circles, swirls, ovals, clusters, teardrops, etc. Irregular and animated pieces are excellent as long as you keep the curves highlighted. Bright colored pieces, big bright beads are always excellent. Keep earrings crisp and on the ear as opposed to dangles. Wristbands and bracelets should be bangles. Unusual pins and brooches are also wonderful touches to spice up your appearance. Don't be afraid to be a little outrageous with your jewelry. So here What stands out to me is dynamic colors for the neck pieces, pieces that sit right at the neck, so giving that high neckline, an illusion of that. Bright, bold pieces and curved shapes, so no sharp outlines. And I think all of these are just very fun, very interesting, very dynamic, playful at places, but beautiful and interesting. The sort of jewelry that makes people ask you about it because it's just so interesting to look at is perfect for this type. Hats should be small and crisp in rounded shapes with minimal trim. Crisp caps can also be good, but keep the shapes small and rounded. So here's small shapes, rounded shapes, some contrast. I love that hairband up top with the white and the black trim. Beautiful, interesting way to add some visual interest and pizzazz to your hair without having to put on a full hat. And for the same reason, I love the black and white headscarf, which can be a great addition to add pattern, color, and just a break in an otherwise boring outfit. Hair accessories, accessories of any kind are fantastic for this type. Avoid oversized hats, unconstructed floppy hats, man tailored hats. Belts. Belts should be narrow to moderate and crisp. Contrasting colors are excellent. Buckles should be curved, swirled, or slightly intricate. Material should be very elegant leather, reptile, or exquisite fabric. So again, you want to go for the quirky and the dynamic and the fun, and shapes should be clear, so like circles or a magenta square contrasted against a zebra print belt. Fantastic for this type. It's a great way really to just add additional visual interest and a horizontal break to the look, which is fantastic because that creates that staccato effect, and that always complements this type. Avoid wide, stiff belts. Soft gamine hair and makeup. For a soft gamine, hair should be asymmetrical in shape with added layering or soft curls or waves. It should be short, sassy, and soft at the same time. Makeup for a soft gamine should be fresh and vibrant. Hair. Hair should always be soft and tousled with soft layering. Asymmetrical cuts are possible if the hair is curled or waved, although this style should be finger teased for fullness. Feather fringe around the face is always good for you. Length must be kept short. From another part of the book, Kibbe says, your hairstyle is best when the cut is asymmetrical in shape, with added layering or soft curls or waves. It should be short, sassy, and soft at the same time. Again, the shapes should be curved, rounded, or softened in outline by lots of feathering. So here we have Audrey Tautou in both the first and second images, and she is giving a great example of a short length and a tousled sort of hair, and there's that layering, and it also looks soft, and she looks amazing. That has been her signature hairstyle for a very long time. I think she learned very quickly on what suits her, and she just always looks great. To the right of her, Halle Berry has a very similar style, perhaps a little more choppy and sharp if we compare it to Audrey's to the left, but very similar, short, layered, and with that little bit of softness to it. I think Audrey's hair, it embodies more of that softness, but it's a very similar style, and Halle Berry popularized this hairstyle because she looks so incredible in it. She really has this incredible range when it comes to what suits her face, but this short pixie-like but soft pixie is truly incredible on her. And then to the right of her, we have Reese Witherspoon, who has a very sleek short bob, but the bangs that are short really make it perfect for her. It creates that soft feathering effect right in front, and also the way that it's curled in, the ends have that sort of similar feathering. So it's not a blunt cut. That additional softness really helps to make it work, and this style is incredible on her. Avoid long hair. Long hair simply won't work for you because it drags you down and hides your animation.
your electricity, and your sensuality. Sleek and geometric styles are not for you as they are aging on you and they make you look tired. So, this is where I start to say we need to be careful because this advice won't be universal. I think by and large, it's true. Overly long hair for this type is going to drag them down. Looking here at Halle Berry, this is not one of her best styles. It's just there and it really looks to be a wig to me. It's very long and it's very sleek, and these elements work against the softness and the roundedness of her overall composition, and it drags her down. So I do agree that in her case, this is true. She doesn't look awful, it's just not one of her best looks. But I think the idea that long hair is out completely is something that I find her in particular to be able to push back on. So if we look at this image, I would say the hair is still long for her, but it's not as sleek. So now we've added some roundedness and she's also added some bangs to her face. And this should suit her more, but I feel like it doesn't. Neither of these looks are her best, but actually, she looks better to me to the right, just comparing these two. There's an element of something not quite there. And it's really tough. I'm nitpicking because both of these I feel are not her best hair. But to the left, to me, it doesn't actually even look like Halle Berry. At least I can recognize her to the right. And that's just very interesting. So there's this real separation and it doesn't come together nicely. So this is going to become a person by person thing. And then, of course, here, when she has this incredible, lush, curly hair, she looks amazing. So it's definitely long and she's pulling off that length. So I think for her, the key components are the softness in the hair as well as the curl. So that's a way to tie in her yin, right? If that makes sense. The straight hair, I agree, doesn't suit her at all, but the idea that long hair simply doesn't work on her is untrue. I have seen her in styles where the hair is pretty straight, but just not as sleek as what we've represented in these first two images. So she has great range, and this is something that you're going to have to see for yourself. Somebody like Audrey Tautou, I think this would definitely be true for. I cannot imagine her in anything outside of her pixie, and I think long hair, whatever style, really would drag her down. And then, of course, this is much shorter. This is the shortest length that she has here. And by this sort of mathematics, this should suit her best. And I think we can all agree this is by far the least flattering hairstyle that she has. So, just something interesting to say. It's good to know the rules, but we're all individuals, so we're not going to fit perfectly into these made up categories. So just be mindful as you go about trying to type yourself and others. Again, looking at Reese Witherspoon, I think that for her, also, I agree that the very sleek sort of hairstyle is not her best. She looks fine in both of these. I think she's a beautiful woman, so it's going to take a lot for her to look awful, but this is not incredible. So I would say the sleekness of it takes away something, but not enough for me to say it's awful on her. And she can pull off this sort of length. This is longer than her bob. It's not crazy long, but the length looks okay. And then here, when she adds that side sweep and there's that bit of asymmetry, I think this looks much better than the first two. It's still long and also it's slightly shorter. So as she moves closer to the ideals of the soft gamine, I think for her, she does start to look more harmonious and it just suits her more. And then in this last image, if we were to keep length relatively the same, I would say that's her best. So what she's done here is the bangs are the shortest, and that short length always works for this type. And it sort of balances the fact that the hair itself is long. And because also the bangs are shorter, they create that feathering effect more so, as well as there's a bit more tousling and like she's run her fingers through her hair here as opposed to it being sleek. And the curls create that sort of rounded, sensual, feminine style to it.
And I think all of these things combined, but it's still very polished, which is important for Reese because I do think she has a classic essence. But I I think that is where all the elements come together the best for her if she is going to keep long hair. Hair color. Hair color should be rich and vibrant. If you decide to color your hair, go for a fairly bright shade. Softening your hair color tends to be too tiring on you, but subtle highlights around the face or top may accent the softly tousled look that is your trademark. So I would say, of course, this is an excellent recommendation, but I also think that these images of these women here showcase that that is not all that would suit a soft gamine. For example, in the first three images, these women here are showcasing the rich, vibrant coloring that is so great for this type. In the first two, Audrey and Halle Berry both have that sort of dark, rich, dark brown, and Audrey's looks closer to black. But there's just a very vibrant feel to the hair. It's very deep and vibrant, and it suits them incredibly well. Halle Berry also looks good in this sort of chestnut color, or to the right where her hair is longer. It's a softer color, a lighter color, but the coloring itself is pretty standard and solid throughout her hair. There's not a lot of highlighting going on, and she looks great in that too. Reese is showcasing more of that subtle highlighting, very subtle, but you can see that there's a gradient from the top of her head going down, and that does work for her. Avoid over lightening the hair and over streaking the hair. So all of these images are of Halle Berry, who is arguably one of the most beautiful women on the planet. And in each of these, she really looks not great. And that's the power of the color of her hair mostly. In that third image from the left, I'd say also her makeup is a little bit off, the foundation, but just focusing on the hair. There's too much streaking. That very first one where there's she's holding the rose, it's too light on her. So there isn't enough differentiation between her hair color and her face, and she needs that. And it's also very light and highlighted. And the one next to it, it's over lightened and just very sharp against her. Also, the angularity way too sharp. It's very jarring. And the last two images both have that mix of color. So, not a solid color, nothing vibrant. And it just looks very cartoonish, almost clownish on her. And that very last one, the style of the hair too, way too big, doesn't have definitive shape, doesn't feel or look soft. Okay, it doesn't look soft, it might feel soft, but it just feels like it's just there on her. So, not a style that suits her at all. Makeup. A bright and colorful makeup will be the icing on your cake. It provides polish and elegance and just a hint of glamour. Without it, your head to toe look will not work well, for it adds that extra pizzazz that completes the picture. Choose a crisp and vivid face, bright colors accenting the eyes, ultra rosy cheeks, and very glossy lips. Include a bit of sparkle, just a hint for daytime, but for evening, go all the way with bright color and frosty glitter. Use rounded strokes to blend your makeup so that your entire face is made up of circles and swirls. So here again, we have these stunning women all showcasing some beautiful gamine type makeup, soft gamine type makeup. First, Halle Berry, that beautiful, very blended face, very neutral tones, and I think that's where she really shines. But she just looks beautiful, elegant, and feminine. Reese, to the right of her, has that pop of color, and her eyes are sort of the focus as much as her lips, and that's a great balance for her. And simple foundation, she just looks amazing too. Audrey Tautou has that sparkle in the eye area that just makes them pop. And eyes are such a key feature for this body type. So that's always going to be important. But then her lip, again, pop of color. There's such a beautiful color play within her hair and complexion and lipstick. And then to the right of her, similarly, Tendua Newton has that beautiful
base of foundation, those rosy cheeks, and she has accentuated her eyes, but not in a way that's overpowering. That focus on her eyes is balanced with the pop of color on her lips. It's just stunning. And they all have, notice again, that hair, that solid coloring for most of them. Reese has that little bit of feathering and a little bit of highlights, but still definitively blonde. And they all look beautiful. So I wanted to discuss quickly the idea of a more natural makeup versus adding that pop of color. For all these other women that we looked at over here, except Halle Berry, they all were so well suited by color, and it's because this type generally really does well with that addition, with visual interest, and just more is more. But for her, this look I find to be one of her best because of how simple and subdued it is in terms of coloring. And I think she looks equally as beautiful in these two additional looks. Also, notice very basic makeup, very neutral palette, and it just blends into her, but she looks stunning. And then notice what happens when she does add a pop of color and the color really is at the forefront. I think, okay, to be fair, there's a lot going on that doesn't flatter her. The hair is not the greatest style for Halle Berry. The foundation is not a perfect match for her. But all of that aside, I think the most jarring thing here is that lip color. And for her, that much emphasis and that dynamic a color on her is too overpowering. And there's a great deal of separation between herself and it. So, just something that's interesting and highlights again how different things play out on different people. Avoid heavy contouring to slim your full cheeks. It'll make you look like you have a dirty face. So I don't necessarily think this is over contoured. I couldn't find an image that showcases that. But just makeup that isn't blended won't be great for this type. What I do see here, though, is a very heavy hand in terms of makeup. So her eye area is too precise and dark and too defined, and it creates an imbalance. So you want emphasis on the eyes, but there has to be a softness and a glamour to it. This is too dramatic leaning, and it's just very jarring on Tanya Newton. It comes off as theatrical and not in a good way. Avoid smoky colors, they're too severe on you. So that smoky eye that Halle Berry has, again, there's that imbalance between her eye and her lip. And for her, as we just saw, a beautiful soft glam, blended and neutral, glossy lip is really where she shines. This is too intense in the eye area, and there's just a great degree of separation. I feel the same way for Reese, although she's better able to handle it. But again, just very raccoon eyes esque sort of makeup. It's too intense for her, and I keep being drawn to her eyes, which means that part of the makeup is separate from the rest of it, which of course indicates a lack of harmony with her. Avoid neutral makeup that'll be too stark or cold on you, and no makeup looks. So this is a type that has additional yin, so they are very much suited by that addition of femininity and glam. So when makeup looks as though it's too minimal, I can barely see it, it just takes away from their overall appearance. This doesn't even look like Halle Berry to me. And there's so much that I just want to fix. But makeup is important for this type. Make sure it's visible, not overpowering, but present and soft and glamorous, with a hint of color depending on whether or not you can handle that. And finally, avoid pastel colors, especially to pale lips. This will be aging on you. So here we have Tanya Newton again, and just that eye makeup, that pastel purple is way too soft on her, and it's almost like the first one reads as theatrical, and again in the opposite way, but it's still not flattering. And the colors just look very dull. She is very suited by a lip color, so the fact that her lips are minimal, there's a complete imbalance in her face, a lack of life, and a lack of overall harmony. It's not doing her justice.
And with that, we are done. I would love to know if you are a soft gamine, and if you agree with my analysis, please do let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown and would like to get the sample wardrobe that I created for this type, I would love to give it to you. The wardrobe features all the pieces as well as the accessories. There's a breakdown of the body type and the hair and makeup for this type as well. So just a very complete guide to the soft gamine body type. And I think it's great to have all that information in one place. If you do want this, I will have the link in the description box and you can click on over to get that.
Thank you so much for watching till the end. I hope this video was helpful to you. If you like the content that I'm creating, or if you want to discuss anything I touched on in the video, please do so. Leave me a comment. Also, like the video and of course, subscribe and turn on those notifications. I'll see you on the next one.